Welcome to Black Art is Lit. I'm your host, Nykieria Chaney, and this week we're getting into something a little bit serious. There's a kind of tired that sleep doesn't fix. It's the kind that lives in your spirit. It can be passed down like generational trauma, stretched thin and still expected to show up flawless. As Black women, we carry the weight of being the answer, the backbone, the brilliance, the bomb, while still being unseen in our breaking. Like we just talked about what happened with Joyanne Reed when I paid homage to her by reading one of her books a few weeks ago. This week's book, Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, felt like someone naming what we've been too worn out to say. It's not just exhaustion. It's the layers of pressure, of loss, of having to smile when you're screaming inside, of wanting more time, more space, more freedom to just be. I won't tell too much yet because we're about to get into the book, but the story really does speak for itself. And I will say that it does crack something open in me, the way that she writes about the experiences and especially about slipping away of dreams that we thought that we had more time for. The way our bodies carry both potential and pain. Our experiences when we encounter police, the fear that settles in your bones like it's been there before because it has. Being in this Black world is like a constant negotiation with everything and everybody, but we're always expected to be everything better, but always told that we're not enough. That kind of stuff is something that we all can relate to because it happens far too often. I will say, if you've ever felt like the world expects everything from you and still question your worth, this episode is for you. So let's get into it. Black Girls Must Die Exhausted is something that 33-year-old Tabitha Walker has heard her grandmother say before. Of course, her grandmother, who happens to be white, was referring to the 1950s and what she observed in the times of the civil rights. With a coveted position as a local news reporter, Marc, a paper perfect boyfriend, and a standing Saturday morning appointment with a reliable hairstylist, Tabitha never imagined how this phrase could apply to her as a Black girl in contemporary times until everything changed and an unexpected doctor's diagnosis awakens Tabitha to an unperceived culprit, threatening the one thing that has always mattered most, having a family of her own. With the help of her best friends and the headstrong Laila and Alexis, the former sexy Lexi, Tabitha must explore the reaches of modern medicine and test the limits of her relationships to beat the ticking clock on her dreams of becoming a wife and mother. She must leverage the power of laughter, love, and courageous self care to bring a healing stronger than she ever imagined. Before the phrase Black girls must die exhausted takes on a new and unwanted meaning in her own life. Chapter 1. The day I turned 30, I officially departed my childhood. Not the pigtail braids, devil may care, don't get your Sunday clothes dirty whirlwind of a playtime whimsy, and not the extraordinarily fun, bad decision making adolescence of my college years. If my childhood was an ignorance of consequence, then the onset of adulthood was a head on collision straight into the meaning of everything. 30 was the end of the dress rehearsal. I was officially grown, and to me that meant a checklist. Education, check. Good job, check. Reliable transportation, check. Down payment for some property, check. Dating options limited to marriage material, check, check, and check. I had that checklist on lock. But then at some point, once you get into it, your 30s throw some major curveballs your way and you realize that real life, not just adulthood, is what happens between the lines of that checklist. You learn that life isn't really about checklist type problems, and that's when you have to find out who you really are. Because one minute you had all the answers, and the next you got none at all. So of course, just when I started to gain a comfortable rhythm with regular life concerns, my body went ahead and did the unthinkable. It's bad, I heard the doctor say. I wish I had better news. The reality is, Tabitha, you're only 33, but without taking significant steps in the next 6 months, you may never be able to have a family. I had already left her office, but her voice still trailed me to my car and stayed with me on my drive to work, echoing in my mind on continuous loop. The only merciful interruption was the real-time computer-generated interjections on my navigation app, steering me around the stubborn Los Angeles traffic. Even worse than getting bad news was that it was going to make me late. In my profession, late was tragic. But on the day of our weekly newsroom meeting, late could mean you just lost the assignment that would have made your career. And for the place in line, I had already fought, cried, bled, and eaten far more than my fair share of ramen noodles. My mind was racing. So I'm sure it was paraphrased, honing in on what was really the most important consequence to a person like me. In reality, the doctor could have been more diplomatic. Maybe she said, "You'll never be able to have biological children," or something like, "You won't be able to use your own eggs to have children." Whatever she said sounded nothing like hope. My own version of family included becoming a wife and mother. In a life of careful planning, this reality was always a foregone conclusion, the one puzzle piece that was supposed to fall into place on its own. This was the quiet assurance I gave myself that I eventually filled the gap in my life I had learned to ignore but could never manage to completely forget. This morning's news placed all that in jeopardy. I learned that I have something called premature ovarian failure. Gotta love that kind of name, right? Rather than a much more friendly disorder, the word failure is already wrapped right in, so there's just no sugarcoating this kind of bad. You know what this type of failure is caused by? Stress. The crazy thing is, if you asked me just an hour ago before the appointment, I would have sworn that I was just fine. Stressed? I'm not stressed, I insisted. Well, really, I protested. But my doctor was unconvinced. Instead, she informed me that studies held all the unfamiliar warnings I wished I'd heard before. It could be little things that you just aren't noticing, Dr. Ellis says. Something happens that seems small at the time, or you become desensitized, but it all adds up. Either way, the test results don't lie. Me? Those were just numbers and words. Either way, they had to be meant for someone else, mistakenly delivered to me because I did not feel stress, at least not before leaving the doctor's office. I was even unfazed navigating the infuriating molasses maze of morning traffic. I could proudly say I barely cursed, never had an episode of road rage, held the door open for people, smiled at strangers, and I always made time to put on lipstick. What was there to be stressed about? Before today, everything was going according to plan. I was dating a paper-perfect man, suitable for marriage and tall enough for kids. I was up for a promotion and I had just met my savings goal for a down payment for my very own first dream house. Sure, my family-making hormones were starting to bubble, but I thought I had time. I focused on my career, my friends, spending Saturdays with my grandmother, and loving a Marc who hadn't quite mentioned marriage, but I was sure he would eventually. No need to rush, Tabitha. That's what I tell myself in every one of those moments when even the slightest hint of "where's this going" started to rise in my belly. Who needs to be pushy about things when you have time, right? With today's news, I was just starting to discover how very wrong I was. In my well-ordered world of focused professional upward mobility crossed off checklist and comfortable semi-serious dating, I thought I had prepared for everything. So how was it being ripped apart at the seams by one little doctor visit that was supposed to be routine? I had only gone in for a very simple follow-up to review the results of my regular blood test. I should have known it was a problem when Dr. Ellis insisted on seeing me in person rather than just sending an email. Evidently, my fertility numbers matched those of a woman about to receive her AARP card. "Your body is working too hard to produce an egg each month," she said. It seemed like there's an imbalance going on for some time. The good news is that we caught it while there's still time to pursue options in front of you. Options? In my mind, having a family was never an option. Options were for things like the shoes you pack on vacation or where you decide to meet your friends for dinner. But I've always known what I wanted, at least since I was 9 years old, because once you're made aware of what you don't have, it becomes the thing you dream of. Crap. Distraction caused me to miss my turn. Prompting a tiny voice navigated to reroute me, matching my thoughts of the moment. How did I get here? It's not like I forgot that I was single or forgot to have children. Not possible. It hummed in the background on every night out with my girls, every trip to the supermarket, and every solo tax return. And once I turned 30, no matter my accomplishments, educational or professional, there was no chance of escaping the question, "So how come you're not married yet?" I could almost see it written in cursive on propets' faces, along with the wrinkled expression lines crossing well-meaning foreheads, and the eyes of even more curious, "What's wrong with her?" twinkled in Morse code. It felt as if people thought that my degrees came with the free Mrs. option that I didn't elect at graduation. It wasn't just that easy. All along, I'd done my fair share of dating. Dating for me was always for the family you hope to make, even at some level when I was just having fun in my 20s. So, of course, in my 30s, I was dating with care, intensity, and dedication of a second job. Unfortunately, up to this point, dating itself hadn't yet made for any relationship that I was sure should or could turn into a long-term expectation, not even with Marc. It just seemed that once 30 hit, all the folks for whom marriage meant something, especially the men who considered having a wife and family as an accomplishment in its own right, had already taken their nearest best option to the altar. The men who were left and still single, well, they considered it an accomplishment that they had neither wife nor child and never got caught up or caught slipping, which likely fallen in love to unprotected casual sex. They treated love like a disease you catch, and if real adult commitment was the incurable version of it, then for them, family was basically death. And goodness knows, I wasn't trying to kill anybody. What I wanted was that same page kind of love. That connection between two people that gave each of them a lot more answers than questions. So in spite of my very best efforts and stilettos, I'd been as single as a wrapped tampon. Except for the past year and a half. I was better classified as not exactly single. I would have to admit, it took me a while to get centered on what seemed to be more the right type of dating track for my type of goals. When I started dating, I beeline for the boys with hot bodies, actor dreams, and table-waiting futures. Coming back to LA from grad school, I realized that I should probably find another responsible adult with whom I could at least pretend to build a fairy tale. What I got was a doctor who was too busy for me, an artist manager from the music industry who wined and dined me for a month and then ghosted, and a seemingly mature single dad in his late 30s who gave me the key to his apartment on our second date and then asked for it back when his mother came to visit 2 months later. Then, in between, there were the deceptives and time wasters who wanted extensive emotional attachment, but in the end could only commit to being friends. LA guys were a special breed. And not just because people came here to chase after vivid dreams of wealth and fame. So when I met Marc, who seemed in every way an educated, handsome, professional guy with a healthy amount of swagger and decency, I wasn't trying to stray too far to the left or right. At the beginning, I felt lucky. But as time progressed, lucky turned into love for the both of us, in spite of our schedules. Even when my visibility at the news station increased, bringing with it tempting offers of more time and attention, I ignored them because they weren't men of Marc's caliber. Plus, he had my heart. He made me smile and laugh, and when we were together, I felt like the most beautiful and sexiest woman for miles. He just had that way about him, that same way that made you feel so lucky in the beginning. Our relationship had long-term potential. Although with a heavy emphasis on potential, it wasn't lost on me that we still only spent weekends together and I hadn't met his family or shared our holiday. Yes, I knew I didn't have forever, but I thought I was doing the right thing. Find the right guy and then give him the time and space he needed to make some moves toward a future together. In the year and a half we've been dating, he never once brought up marriage, so I didn't either. And neither one of us brought up the topic of kids, other than at first to discuss birth control measures. He'd sometimes acknowledge that someday they would be very nice to have, and I'd agree, but never push, no matter how badly I wanted to. Knowing that Marc wanted to be a father was enough for my checklist. I thought I could just wait him out until we got to the right place in our relationship. I was just always so sure that there was time. Today, the shock was still settling in my stomach that there was not. The doctor told me that all I had was 6 months at best. I felt my palms hit the steering wheel as frustration animated my sides. What a waste of diligence spent not getting pregnant, only to find myself in a situation where I'd hoped to be able to. I possibly couldn't. Ugh. The idea of the clock running out on my fertility felt like every bad date, every tough breakup, and every guy that I turned down in high school had all turned into big permanent cracks in my life's sidewalk. I hated the idea that maybe these people had taken something from me that I could never get back. Dr. Ellis had said options, but I couldn't help but to hear what really were my options. Up to then, the only options I'd been concerned with were the stories I'd pitch in the newsroom, restaurants for dates with Marc, and maybe my dream of which little house I'd buy. Now my newsroom pitches would become do or die opportunities to get my next promotion. Dates with Marc would turn into critical conversations, and my little house would evaporate into an expensive egg freezing procedure that I couldn't even afford. But this car ride from the doctor's office was no good time to get started on that. I was already late for work and frazzled. What I really needed to do was steal the time at red lights to repurpose my visor as a makeshift vanity and slap a bare bones makeup bead on my face. It was too much of a trick to control the steering wheel with one hand and contour with the other, especially since my hands were still shaking. My reflection looked back at me with a grimace. I was definitely without my usual pretty. I was a television reporter and yet not a classic beauty. So success for me meant there was the 50% minimum on standards to meet, my hair to straighten and mask of makeup and appropriateness to wear over my brown skin. I managed it all with the composure that you expect of a professional, and most of the time without a second thought. Was this stressful? The need to conform to a standard that I couldn't naturally meet? Well, today it was. Today my mind let my well-settled ideas unspool themselves from my usually tightly wound spindle of coping. Today was the first time in a long time that my appearance felt like the burden I wanted to just let go of. Even as I fought to resume my makeup routine, my mind perched on the verge of becoming an unraveled mess, struggling to find order in the loosely connected thoughts, pluck them from forgotten memories and the life plans that might no longer apply. At a time like this, I wanted to call my mother. Well, I wanted to be able to, but the kind of empathy that this situation required was not in her wheelhouse. I was supposed to deliver grandbabies, at least 2, and she always told me that she was hoping for 3 so that she'd always have a little one to shop for. My mom talked about grandkids all the time. Even though she lived on the full other side of the continent in Washington, D.C., this conversation was her version of a calendar reminder for a reoccurring appointment. We'd speak on the phone about all things unrelated, catching up on our life and perspective worlds, and suddenly, like a ping, the topic would start to pop up and insert itself into polite conversation like, "So, how are things going, Marc? And when can I expect to meet my grandchildren?" It didn't help that I was an only child, at least on my mother's side, and her only hope of becoming a grandmother. I guess all along I felt like I owed her that, especially since I couldn't go back and fix the past. The robotic voice warned me of a traffic slowdown on my route, and I was still 20 minutes out from work according to the navigation ETA. I was close enough to take a shortcut through my old neighborhood and save myself at least 5 minutes on the way to the station. I decided to take the turn off. I last lived here in View Park with my parents. It was a neighborhood of Black professionals set off on the southwest side of Los Angeles. We weren't living large, but we were living Black folks fancy. This wasn't all the way ritzy, like the really rich entertainment types in Bel Air and Malibu, but was especially comfortable. Even more than the LA mega mansions and Hollywood Hills contemporary showplaces, these were still the kinds of homes I dreamt about most often. Most were ranch layouts of varying sizes, but some were towering estates spanning what seemed like a full block. Lawns were always immaculately manicured and palm trees lined most of the streets, some of which gave the perfect view all the way to downtown. We owned our home with a palm tree and a lemon tree out front, and I had my own room. I hated the color, but my mother picked out what it was supposed to be, a pale Pepto-Bismol pink for princesses. I certainly didn't think of myself as a princess growing up. Sometimes I thought of myself as a teacher or a doctor, someone with a career, someone who could put both feet on the ground every morning, got dressed and fought for her own battles. My mom learned her fairy tales from her mother and Walt Disney, but I learned mine from Oprah. Back then, my friends and my school were all within walking distance, so in the evenings, with just a short walk and no bus ride, I was able to get my homework done quickly and indulge in one of my favorite hobbies. I was probably a little too old for it then, but I still absolutely loved to play with my collection of Barbie dolls. Their pink world, I didn't mind. Pink just was never the right color for my reality. For those dolls, I had everything. The dream house, the Corvette, you name it. With them and their pink, anything was possible from one day to the next. I used their thin Barbie bodies to make my own role models who lived the way I wanted them to, with their own cars and their own houses that could be decorated as they saw fit. It was a space that I could control amid the perfectly organized design and implemented perfection that surrounded me in every other aspect of our lives as a family. My mother married my father almost directly after college, and as far as I knew, her career focus was my dad, building a perfect life for him and playing the role she had always believed she was best suited for, a beautiful, supportive homemaker and eventually mother. On our very last evening as a family, 9-year-old me played in my fantasies, sitting on the floor of my bedroom in clothes still wrinkled and dirty from school's recess. Suddenly, I was startled by what sounded like a rolling, piercing wail from my mother that came from the kitchen. I heard the back door close and thought nothing of it because of the time that my dad usually came home. All the time he used to return before he started spending nights away on work trips that had been coming up with increasing frequency. Scared for my mother, I rushed into the kitchen to see her sitting at the table with her head in her hands and my dad standing near the door with his jacket over his arm and the strangest look on his face. They seemed lost in their own moment. My mother sobbing and my father standing there until I finally managed to get some kind of sound out of my mouth and they noticed me. What's wrong, Mommy? I asked. My mother, upon hearing my small voice, took in a sharp breath. I think she had forgotten that I was in the house. She turned and looked at me. The memory of her usually immaculate makeup running down her eyes would today make me think of a Picasso painting or some real-life version of Edvard Munch distortion. Her glistening eyes found mine and she said in a frighteningly serious tone, "Your father is leaving us for his other family." And there it was. As she turned back to sobbing, this time collapsing on the table. "Oh my God, Jeannie. I can't believe that you would say that to her," my dad shrieked, throwing his briefcase against the kitchen floor. I stood still like a prey animal while my immature mind processed what I had heard. What? My dad leaving? What other family? Leaving? Where is he going? "Daddy, you're leaving?" was all I could muster, an echo of what I had heard. When I started to cry talk, questioning with escalating panic and increasing volume, my father came over to me, kneeled down, and looked me in my eyes. "I'll never leave you, Tabby. There are some things your mother and I need to discuss. Can you go to your room and I'll come see you in a bit? I promise I won't leave. I promise, okay?" Something about his reassurance brought a temporary calm that allowed me to break from the sight of my sobbing mother, walk back into my room, and close the door. I didn't want her to hear any more what was going on. I tried to resume my scene. My blind Barbie had been teaching her friends about something we had learned in school that week, but suddenly those dolls didn't seem that interesting anymore. In that instant, their world felt fake and plastic as their slippery rubber legs. I put them away and tried to keep my routine, washing up, putting on my night clothes, and eventually getting into bed. I lay on my back with my hands folded across the top of my entirely flat chest, staring at the ceiling, waiting who knows how long until my door eventually opened and my dad came in. He walked across my pink shag rug carpeting to my pink princess bed and finally sat on the edge. It was the next conversation that turned that day into my very first D-Day. I learned that there was a woman named Diane, and there would be a divorce, and that my dad was eventually not going to be living here with me and my mother anymore. So indeed, there was another D discovered on that day: deception. The concept of an affair and the fact that my dad had one was something I learned on a different night. One of many to follow in which my mother sought comfort in a glass after glass of wine that loosened her lips to release truths I would have rather not known. But there was one thing my mother did not speak of, and neither did my father. It was only when I finally did meet her and laid my eyes on her face, smiling to excess, white teeth, rose-colored lips, brown hair, and bright blue eyes, that I realized Diane was white. It was the stereotypical insult added to injury for my mother. An actual white woman was something she could imitate but never be. The betrayal of Diane was a further sting to my mother because my father's mother, my grandmother, the other, an original Tabitha Abigail Walker, was also white. When my mother and father got married, my mother was under the impression she would be my father's choice for his adult life. And not that there was any friction between my mother and grandmother, but until I was born, Granny Tab was the only other woman that my mother had ever had to compete with for my father's attention. When I was younger, I could remember my Granny Tab's bright blue eyes and her box dye brown hair that always bobbed just above her shoulders in a perfect bob, and her school teacher glasses that sometimes hung on the metal chair around her neck and sometimes perched on the end of her thin English ski slope nose. She spent her career as a teacher in the LA Unified School District and retired while I was in middle school. It was really Granny Tab who taught me how to read and write my name in cursive and helped me pass algebra. Growing up, I never used to think of my grandmother as white. She was just my Granny Tab, and hey Mrs. Walker, to the rainbow of kids in her classroom when I visited. I knew she was from West Virginia, but she didn't talk about it much, and we didn't spend any time with her side of the family. From my understanding, things didn't go over so well when she married my grandfather, but he wasn't someone we talked about much either. All I knew about him was that he was a black man from the same town as Granny Tab. They were married right after high school, and then they divorced when my dad was little, only for my grandfather to disappear completely shortly after. Sometimes I wonder what could have happened to make someone as warm as Granny Tab turn away and never look back at parts of her family. Those thoughts never lasted long. because she radiated enough love on her own to make up for all the missing folks from her side. So for her, family was the family she chose, the family she made, minus the family she unmade, and the family my dad made after that. Up until Diane, my dad's end of the things was mostly black, my mom and me. He and my mother met at Howard University, for goodness sakes. Even with a white grandmother, whiteness never played any role in my identity. As far as I was concerned, there was no difference between what my dad was and what my mom was. And by extension, no difference between either of them and me. Thinking about it, I suppose she could have, but Granny Tab never wore her whiteness as if it were a badge or some kind of cape. Our default setting relative to my blackness or brownness, so to speak. She just simply was, and I was, and together we all just were. I would have never dared utter the words mixed or biracial if someone asked me my cultural, racial, or ethnic identity. And that wouldn't be because I was making some kind of political statement or a choice of one thing over another. It just would be most accurate to say that it never occurred to me that I had a choice of it at all. Ever since I was a little girl, my grandmother had always been my much older twin, my adult best friend, and the reason I was proud to be named Tabitha Walker. But once the Diane thing had happened, all kinds of lines that had never existed before started to pencil themselves into our lives, and all kinds of questions that we never thought to ask needed answers. My father's abandonment grew in its own roots in my mind, eventually grafting onto other teenage insecurities, making ugly knots of angst that I channeled into excelling in my studies. My mother had fewer options. She had become a planet spiraled off into space without the rotational gravity of the sun. When stability was lacking in the midst of all the turmoil and my mother's challenging window of self-doubt and confusion, Granny Tab was always a safe haven for me. If things got too heated or too cool at home, she was a short bus ride away. On the worst days, especially when I was younger, I would go straight to Granny Tab's house and climb into bed with her, bury my head into her shoulder crook and cry. If I didn't have to go to work, that's exactly what I do today. She'd wrap her arms around me with no words, just holding the space for me and for us. She was strong in that way, the quiet way, the way of just being there and not needing to fix what couldn't be fixed by anything other than tears and time. The blaring sound of a horn behind me pulled me out of my thoughts and stopped my hypnotic mascara application at the green light in front of me. I was just 5 minutes from work now, but the flood of difficult memories and the swirling in my mind had taken my attention off the flow of cars ahead. I dropped my hand holding the wand to my lap and held the bottom of the steering wheel while I screwed the tube back into a single piece. Pulling my thoughts and my eyes back to my reflection in the mirror, I could see that I was just one lipstick application away from being presentable. Except my lipstick wasn't in my makeup bag. Crap, it was in my purse on the seat. The sudden acceleration of my car combines simultaneously with a clumsy reach for my purse, throwing it onto the floor open side down. Out of the side of my eye, I saw the contents scatter into a pattern all over the side floor. I allowed myself a quick glance down and then swiftly brought my eyes back to the road and eventually to the rearview mirror. I saw the lights before I heard the siren. That can't be for me, I thought to myself. But there it was. The patrol car behind me, definitely behind me. No, not today, Lord. I had no idea why he would be stopping me. And in this current climate, wearing brown skin, nothing about seeing the black and white pattern of a police cruiser made me feel safe. Nothing at all. Now more than ever, it made me feel like my life was in danger. Immediately, my heart started racing, creating a throbbing in my ears and lending a hollowness to the sounds all around me. I turned down the radio and looked for a place to pull over to the right side of the street. I couldn't help that my hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight that they were almost white, underneath the usual golden brown of my skin. My breath was shallow and quick, even though I tried to slow it down to avoid full-on panic. Damn it. My purse and all of its contents were on the floor, including my wallet. At some point, if he asked for my ID, I was going to have to reach for it. Oh my God, I don't want to reach for anything. My cell phone was on the passenger side floor as well. I can't even record this. Who will be my witness? What if he thinks I'm reaching for a gun and it's just my cell phone? I've never even held a gun. Never. Not even a toy gun, like Tamir Rice, but he still got shot, didn't he? One of my greatest concerns in the moment. I couldn't control who he saw or what he thought when he looked at me. There was no good way to explain I had parents and friends and a whole office of people who were waiting for me. As disjointed and dysfunctional as they might be, I did have a family. I had some kind of a family. I hope he understood that whether or not I showed up for work or for dinner would matter to someone. It would. I'd be missed. I knew that much. I couldn't explain to him that, oh my God, he's coming. I looked up from the array of lipsticks and loose change and scattered around my upside-down purse on the floor into the rearview mirror and saw that the officer was walking toward me. He was tall with a solid build. He had close-cropped blonde hair, and he was wearing mirrored sunglasses that looked cold and invincible. His hands were at his utility belt as he walked up. The belt that carried his weapons, so many weapons. I could only pray he didn't use any of them on me today. I had no idea why he would, which was just as scary as the fact that, based on anything I'd seen, I also couldn't name why he wouldn't. I just wanted to get to work. I saw him approach the driver's side of my car, and I was exceedingly careful not to move 1 inch from the 10 and 2 position on my steering wheel. He motioned for me to roll down the window. I whispered silent prayers as I slowly moved my left hand to the window controls. The window obeyed and descended into the door. "Ma'am, can I please see your license and registration?" the officer asked. I hesitated, near tears. Try to hold it together, Tabby, but you can't reach, not for anything. You already know what they do to black people who reach. I was petrified. Everything was on the floor. Everything. What if he thought, "Ma'am, license and registration?" He repeated, a little more insistent this time. I struggled to manage my breath and to find words at the same time. I can't, I don't want to reach. It's on the floor. I'm sorry. I'm just really scared right now, I blurted. The words all came out of me in a blustering hurry, a word dribble. My mind was racing, my heart was racing, and my hands were wrapped around the steering wheel tightly enough to form calluses. I didn't want to die, and suddenly I found myself into a situation where I had no idea how to stay alive. The wildly played video of Philando Castile ran through my mind. The sound of the gunshots ringing as he reached for his wallet, obeying the officer's command, echoed as a warning that the wrong breath, the wrong move, the wrong anything could end me in a cloud of unwarranted bullets. "Oh, for Christ's sake, ma'am, can you please step out of the car?" The officer looked at me with shifting intensity. Oh Lord, oh my God, this is how it starts. I remember the video of Breonna King's traffic stop, where the police threw her tiny doll-like body onto the ground with the shattering force of unexplainable rage. I tensed and held on tighter to the steering wheel. Oh my God, he's going to hurt me. I felt the stinging in the back of my throat as tears of helplessness threatened and pushed my back against my eyes. I tried to fight them back. I tried to breathe. I tried to remain calm and maintain clear thinking. My life depended on it. My life depended on everything that I would say and do next. Please, I struggled with this simple word as my trembling doubled in intensity and moved up to my neck and crept into my jaw. I'm on the news. I'm on TV. I'm just trying to get to work. I don't want you to hurt me. I just want to go to work, I pleaded. It felt as if I were begging for my life. I thought of my grandmother, my mother, even my father, but none of them could protect me from this moment. "Ma'am, get out of the car. I am not going to hurt you. Do it slow and do it now. Unlock the door. Unlock the door. I'm going to open it. You're going to get out, okay? Do that now." I felt his growing impatience. Dear God, please help. Please help me now. Please, please, please help me. Please, I'm going to unlock this door, God. Please with me, please. Saying nothing, I managed to nod my head and slowly reach my left hand down to unlock my car door. The officer took the outside handle and pulled the door open. "Now unbuckle your seatbelt and step outside, please. Just here. Step outside of the car." I replaced my left hand on the steering wheel and peeled off my right hand to slowly reach for the seatbelt release. There was again, reaching. "I'm just going to put my hand down to unbuckle," I said. "I don't have anything anywhere on me. I'm on television. I'm a reporter. I'm on television." I forced the words out with heavy labor. Anything more than a whisper felt like I was going to unleash the scream of terror that was building inside of me, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to scream so badly with everything in my entire soul. "Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Won't you leave me alone?" But I said nothing. I held it in. I held my breath and unlatched my seatbelt and let it release across my body. And slowly I turned and pulled my shaking frame upward and outside of the physical protection of my car to face the officer. Oh God, please help me. I closed my eyes and lingered in one final prayer that I released to float out of my exhaled breath. The officer stood in front of me briefly. I could tell he was considering me, even from behind the emotionless stare of his mirrored aviator glasses. He took in a breath and his rigid posture softened a bit. "I can't believe it has come to this," he said, his hand reaching up for his sunglasses. What? I said, frightened about what that could mean for me in the next moments. The officer shook his head and pulled off his sunglasses. Officer Mallory. Mallory. I tried to commit that to memory and looked for the badge number. 13247. Mallory. 13247. Okay, got it. Oh no, I forgot the numbers. He looked at me with blue eyes squinting to adjust to the light. He leaned forward just slightly to repeat himself. I just said, I can't believe that it has come to this. This. Look at you. Why are you so afraid? He asked with seeming earnestness. I'm not going to hurt you. Listen, he said and hesitated. I'm going to touch you. Is that okay? I'm not going to hurt you. I paused, confused about what he was asking me to allow. I was not certain that I had any true agency or choice in the moment. I nodded my head, saving my energy in case I would need to scream. He slowly lifted his hands up, placing them gently on my shoulders. I caught the glint of a gold wedding band on his left hand. Maybe he had a family, a daughter. Maybe he could understand what it was like to be a parent and think about his innocent daughter not making it back home. What is your name? He asked. Tabitha, I said, struggling with even my most familiar words against the violent trembling in my body. I felt unsteady in my heels. Strangely, his hand stabilized me slightly. Tabitha Abigail Walker. I'm a reporter on KBTV News. I'm just trying to get to work. I said, trying to make a case for my safety, to make him understand that mine was not a name that would just disappear. If that registered with him, I didn't notice. He continued just as before. Miss Walker, seeing you, I just can't believe it. Look, he said, searching for his words as he sought out direct eye contact. He moved his head until his eyes met mine directly. I'm a third-generation cop, okay? Third generation. My grandfather was a cop, and my dad. They're the reason I put this uniform on every day, every single day. To them, to me, this uniform means service. It means honor. It means everything opposite of whatever it is that's making you stand here in front of me like this. He paused again and then continued. And don't think I don't know. I do know. I read the stories, seen the videos too. The same ones you have. But that's not what this uniform means to me. Okay? That's not what it means. Do you understand that? I struggled to take in his words. All I could do was look him in his eyes and let the tears fall from mine. The air hung heavy between us for a moment, and neither of us spoke. I couldn't say anything, even as some of the tension started to drip out of my body. There are just some moments when words cannot perform their duty. There are just some thoughts that are bigger than words. It was in this space that we stood in consideration of each other until we could find the next space of our shared reality. It was my turn to speak. I'm sorry. I've just seen so much. I didn't mean, it's not disrespect. I'm just afraid. I don't know, maybe in this afraid, but I am. I tried to explain. His words had touched me because I could see them echoed in his eyes. I wanted to believe him. So I allowed his reassurance to calm my racing thoughts. What happens now? I asked. He took another long breath and dropped one hand from my shoulder, but kept his eyes locked with mine. I pulled you over because you were driving erratically. You missed a light back there and it seemed like you might have been on your phone. He broke eye contact with me and glanced over into my open car. He returned to meet my stare. From the looks of things, you probably weren't. You also weren't paying attention. I want to let you go, but I need to make sure that you're going to drive safe. You said you're headed to work? Just take some time and collect yourself before you get back on the road. Can we agree on that? He paused to search my eyes for a response. Yes, I can do that. I managed to respond, grateful to not have to fully explain the distractions of my morning. Okay, I'm going to let you go, he said with a lingering pause, signaling that he was considering his next words carefully. I can't pretend to know what's going on in your mind. I have no idea. But we're not all like what you guys are seeing and hearing about. He finished, then turned and walked away, headed back to his patrol car. I stood still, considering the moment and his final words to me. Neither are we, I said quietly. Neither are we. I turned slowly back toward my car and allowed myself to drop into my seat, closing the door after me. With my hands back on 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, I let my face drop into the center of it. The cascade of tears came with heavy sobs as the entire weight of the morning's events released itself from my body with the force of a thunderstorm. It shouldn't be this way. Nothing should be this way. I should have more eggs. I shouldn't have to be this scared. I should have been at work already. I am Tabitha Abigail Walker, a Black girl in contemporary America, and I am personally and emotionally spent. It's not even 11 a.m., and I already feel as exhausted as my egg supply. Okay, if you are still sitting with your shoulders tight and your breath a little shallow, you are not alone. That first chapter was a lot. But for many Black women, I can tell you that it definitely is familiar. Tabitha walks into the doctor's office just expecting routine answers, and she walks out with her entire future hanging in the balance. Being told that her chances of having children are limited and that the timeline she thought she had is suddenly gone, that is more than a diagnosis. It is a grief. It is a loss. It is a mourning, a quiet one. The kind that really does settle deep and linger in places that nobody can see. This isn't just about biology. It is told how we're told to wait. You wait to build careers, to be ready, to not want to do too much at once. I remember when I was growing up, I was told a lot of things, but there came a time when I got older that I used to say, I wish that I would not have been so cautious in my youth, because it was just drilled into me and I did everything just the way I was told. But I wish I would not have been so cautious, because I certainly understand being told she had chances or having children are limited and that the timeline she thought she had is suddenly gone. That right there, that can be too much at once. And then when we do what we want, when we're finally ready, time tells us that we're too late. It's an experience that many have had, but they rarely talk about. Often because we're expected to be strong, to just deal with it and move on. And just when you think the chapter can't get any heavier, there she's leaving the story and it turns into a life-threatening encounter. And don't we all know what that feels like? The kind of fear that Black women know too well, that panic. That realization that your safety is never guaranteed, even when you've done absolutely nothing wrong, or even when you make a mistake. Like if you ran a light, that shouldn't cause you to fear for your life just because you're being pulled over by the police. But we always know that there's this intersection of womanhood, race, fear, and loss. It all comes in together. And this is just chapter 1. I don't know where Tabitha's story is going to take us just yet, but I have a feeling that we're going to watch her wrestle with some good sound decisions. I can't wait to see what these friends are going to do. And she got 6 months, okay? She said she's going to try to become a wife and a mother in 6 months. And I'm not saying it can't be done, because it definitely can, but if it hits home with you, I hope you stick around and check it out. Make sure you go get her book. Again, this is Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. And that is just such a powerful title. As always, I thank you for listening in with me. Please subscribe to Black Art is Lit wherever you're listening to your podcast. Do me a solid, share it with a friend. You can also follow me. I'm at Nykieria, Nykieria on most platforms. You know what time it is. You meet me back here next week, and we'll be doing the same thing, sharing more stories that resonate, because Black Art is lit.